maintenance, Kurt, tell the public essentially what is the role of your division. I mean, it almost sounds like it's self-explanatory, but just break it down a bit for the public. Distribution and maintenance, what do you guys do, and what is your role in particular?
Well, basically my role is to make sure that the general public have a 24-hour supply of potable water daily. But in this time now, where we have a really serious drought season, it's not so much possible that we could supply everyone with 24 hours of water daily. So sometimes we have to go to what you call rationing, that at night we will shut down the tanks so they could replenish and have enough water to supply the customers during the entire course of the day. If we don't do that, the water will shut off basically like before that time of the, like in the evening, early in the evening. Then basically what we do, we have to go around, make sure there is no leaks, and if there is any leaks, we have to try to adjust them as soon as possible, because if we don't adjust them, that help run down the same tanks that we're trying to keep water in, to keep fill on a daily basis. So, you know, connections, when someone apply for a connection, we have to try to make sure we get that person that connection in a minimum time, like 5 working days. Sometimes because of the nature of the work or like leaks, and so that might take a little more time in terms of getting it to that customer, but we try our best to do that at that time. But it's our duty to get water to every customer and to make sure that they're using it on a basically way, like they don't have much leaks and those kind of stuff going forward, because that it does usually be a task on the department itself. Customers, like as I said, basically there is a lot of customers have a lot of leaks in the households in terms of like toilets and those stuff, and not being addressed. So like as I say, the maintenance crew mostly deal with what they can see on the public on the outside. So that's what we really address.
Thank you, Kurt. Now, water is such a thing in our lives that we all know the importance of water. I mean, people really don't need us to come here and tell them about how important water is. But I must say, for us at the Water Services Department, persons knowing that water is important and acting in a way that backs up that knowledge, sometimes it's two different things. Now, you mentioned, for instance, the fact that there are customers with leaks, and we know that because, how do we know customers have leaks?
Well, basically, from our system, the accounts, when we check the accounts, like from the meter readings, the accounts.
Right. Specifically meter readings.
Yes.
And so it is important that customers understand that, you know, each house, ideally, there are some exceptions, but each house has a water connection to our mains, and each house has a meter. And we rely on that meter to allow us to keep track and keep an account of how much water is passing through that meter into the customer's property. And we want to say to you, the public, and we will open the lines, and we hope that you would give us your feedback in another 5 minutes or so. But we want to say to the public that there are quite a bit of persons who do have leaks on their properties, and sometimes you will say, well, I haven't seen any leak, but the water department, excuse me, you're saying that you're saying to us at the water department, your meter says I'm using this vast amount of water, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing any leaks in my property. So how is that possible? Is it possible? Could it be that your meter is wrong? And we just want to, reiterate to the public that these water meters are very reliable. They seldomly malfunction. They do, but very seldomly. And, you know, 99.9% of the times when we say that, you know, the meter says that you're using excess water, it is a fact. And sometimes persons have leak in their foundation. Sometimes it's a toilet flap that is not closing properly. I myself have had that situation at my home where you know, the toilet flap was not working, and I saw this spike in my consumption. Because I am at my home, we have always very conservative in how we use water. And so when I saw that spike in my bill, in my consumption, I knew right away something was wrong. I checked it out, and of course it was the toilet flap that needed to be changed, and my consumption went right back down. And that is what we want the public to understand, that in St. Kitts we don't have excess water like once ago because of the rapid development and increase in the standard of living. Now, yes, the population might not have increased significantly, but the standard of living has increased significantly in St. Kitts compared to the 70s and 80s and even the 90s. And so because of that, there's a lot more demand for water usage. Back to your division as distribution and maintenance. Maybe Iba, you can just give the public a little insight as to how your division is set up in terms of the water comes from the well or from the source in the mountain, and then what happens until it reaches the customer's property.
Yeah, good morning again. In a brief statement, the water, we have guys in the mountain, usually at mornings they go to clean the source, taking off the leaves and everything. It's not an easy job all the time, I can tell you that. After that, the water comes into the system, which will be the lines. From the lines, you go to the taps.
Well, the storage tanks.
The storage tanks, yeah. Then the taps. And there's where you get the water in a nutshell, but it look easy, but it's not that easy like how it sound here. You know? It's more complicated.
Right. So it requires, I must say, a certain type of dedication.
Yes,
I found from the workers in the water department. I mean, sometimes persons might see the employees and they might think that, you know, these guys are not doing much for whatever reason.
Can I say something on that question?
Sure.
Yeah, like what you just said, you know, you see the guys, and I could tell you some of the guys leave the home at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock,
3 o'clock,
sleeping.
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
One guy was in my office recently, and he said 2 o'clock.
It's a risky thing, you know. You're going out there, you're meeting people, you're meeting wild animals in the bush, and it's scary at times. So we, you know, we're asking the people to take care of the water, treat it like gold, because it's like gold, really and truly. It's not easy getting it to your taps.
That's so true.
Okay, we're gonna open the lines now to the public if you want to call in and be part of the discussion. We're discussing water in general, water services in general, and we're discussing distribution and maintenance. We do have a caller. So caller, good morning, welcome to the water line.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, I was listening and I heard you all. I was hearing you all said how many water wells we have in St. Kitts.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you something. We have 36 guts that whenever we have rainfall in the mountain, 3 hours and longer than 3 hours, all 36 guts run water to the sea. Now, my question is this. Are there any wells dig close to these guts that they could receive water down in them? That's question number 1. And question number 2, how is it Kayan, Sadlers, and Newton Gong, they've been having water problem for years? When I say water problem, shortage of water for years at times, with all these wells we have. Because one person tell me, Kayan, the water is so scarce that the toil, where they don't lean upon to get water to bathe, you rubbing off now. So those are my question and suggestion. If we have these 36 guts that carry water to the sea, why don't you all dig well close enough that they could collect some of the water that was soaked down to the earth? I will listen up here for the rest. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that input, caller. We'll be happy to provide you with the answer, the insights. Kurt, you want to answer the first question? The caller says we have 36 guts that run when it rains from the mountain to the sea.
Well, basically, the same waters from the guts or the hills that he talking about. The same water go to the aquifer around the island where that water go, where we will dig the wells and take that water from underneath. We can't capture all, but we basically capture some of it, a percentage of it that go to the aquifer. And that's where we have the wells, and we pump that same water back to the tanks on a daily basis.
Okay, we have another caller on the line. Good morning, welcome to the water line.
Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Morning.
And the guest them there.
Good morning.
There's a water pipe, Lost Avenue, leaking a lot of water. Plenty of water.
Which avenue is that?
Lost Avenue.
Lost Avenue. Okay, thanks very much for that information. We'll get someone to attend to it shortly.
Yes, okay, I'm going to come and pick it out, please.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Right, so now the previous caller that mentioned 36 guts. We don't want the public to get the wrong impression that there's this vast amount of water that is untapped in St. Kitts. We know that there is a wet season and there's a dry season. And during the wet season, which we're now coming into, hurricane season, wet season, caller. Okay, we have another caller, so we'll pause and take that call. Good morning, welcome to the water line.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Williams and your
Morning.
your supporters. I don't want to to really criticize what other people say, but water running down the gut doesn't mean you don't drill hole for water to go down in a well. That don't happen, and I believe you as a geologist should better explain it to the public, and don't let them run away with the same idea that the gentleman mentioned earlier. But my question to you this morning is, how far are we in obtaining these desalination plants that were offered some time ago, according to what I heard on the news and some officials, politicians, and people high up in water service? That's that for now. I ain't got nothing else to say until another time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, caller. So, yes, we recognize that, yes, given the topography and the geology of St. Kitts, that we do have a lot of guts, and but let's face the reality. How often have you seen these guts running? We just had a system pass by about a week or two ago, and even the Wingfield River, which is our largest river in St. Kitts, in Old Road, the Wingfield River, hardly ran, if it did at all. That is because we are capturing all the water from that river gut up in the source.
Right.
So that in itself is a reflection. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the water line.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
I know we got water shortage, right? But we have the water available.
Sorry, you're not hearing clearly.
We have the water tanks them available, right? You forget me?
Which water tanks?
The water tanks that are selling CDC and...
Oh, yes.
But what the government could put in place to carry down the prices of them tanks for them to be more affordable for people who use on the houses. Right? And next thing, I feel like they should change the building code at NHC, or when they're building houses, for people to put systems after the house for water. Because if the water problem gonna be consistent, what in the future, I mean, it's best for people who've got water storage and the therefore have to the side of the house in the event of water that will be going for. Yeah, I'm going to listen now, please.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. You have raised what we consider to be a very important issue in terms of persons buying one of those black plastic tanks and storing their own water. More and more persons are doing it. But the history of St. Kitts, unlike Nevis and Anguilla and other islands, the history of St. Kitts is that we've always had a reliable water supply 24/7. So there was little need for persons to feel they need to build a cistern when they're building their house or purchase one of those black storage tanks. But that is no longer the case because we are developing. The country has developed so rapidly. Let us look at electricity. We just had load shedding. Skelet just bought 2 new generators. With water, it's a similar situation. It's a utility. Water is utility just like electricity. As the electricity demand goes, water demand goes likewise. We have to be in a position to respond. And so how are we going to get additional water as the country's demand increases is going to be a combination of various options. It's going to include desalination. It's going to include persons being willing to put their own storage in place. Matter of fact, when Frigate Bay was developed back in the 70s, the building code for Frigate Bay mandated and still mandates that you must build a cistern when you build in Frigate Bay.
That's true.
The developers of Half Moon Heights did the same thing. Where I live in Cedar Grove, the same thing. So the rest of the country, likewise, that is going to become mandatory. Is there a caller?
Yes.
Good morning, welcome to the Waterline.
Hello?
Yes, good morning, welcome.
Yes, good morning. I just need to interject something. I stepped away from the radio for a while. What about desalination? There any plans for government to get a plan or two desalination plant to install to help the current situation? I'll listen out here.
Thank you very much for that question. And I just said, and let me repeat, the short answer to that is yes, we must embrace desalination as part of the solution. It's not the only solution. Part of the solution is that persons have to use less water. Persons have to become more conservative in how they use water. All those persons who have leaks, some of them have had leaks for months and years and refuse to address them. We're going to have to take that more aggressively and more seriously. You have a leak, you're not fixing your leak, we disconnect you from the system. Until we take such drastic steps, we're going to continue to have not enough water, we're going to continue to be forced to ration. So when you lose water and when the water department is rationing, don't blame the water services department, blame your neighbor who is wasting the water. Because we have to put the responsibility back onto you, the consumers, and persons have to now realize that the issue and the main problem in St. Kitts is not that it's not so much water production, but it's more water consumption. The abuse of the water that we have. We have to stop. We have to have a paradigm shift in terms of how we look at water. It is not something that is there plentiful to be wasted and used anyhow. Oh yes, even things like you look at the sporting facilities, and so you know the persons who are maintaining the parks and so on, you know, they just go and they water the grass and they don't stop to think, you know, here I am watering grass for it to look green in the midst of the dry season in March, April, when everywhere is brown, and you want the sporting facility to be lush green. But that water that you're throwing on the grass, people don't have water to bathe and to do their other domestic chores with. Good morning, welcome to the Waterline.
Good morning again. I was not going to call back in, but Mr. Williams, Kellex said they're renting 2 generators from somewhere in Florida, and they're going to give them about 3 megawatts of electricity. That's what they said. But since they're back, I'm going to ask you, what is the difference between source and intake? That's it now.
Okay.
Between source and intake.
Good question. The source is the source technically is the rainfall, because that is where all the water comes from. Without rain, we don't have water in St. Kitts. We want to make that clear and abundantly clear. All of our water comes from rain. We don't desalinate, at least the public supply. We know Marriott and Park Hyatt have desalination plants. They get their potable water from desalinating the seawater. But for now, all of our water in the public supply comes from rain. Nowhere else. Rain. It doesn't rain, we have less water. Or when there's a dry spell, we have less water. And speaking of that, we've just got some information from the Met Office, which shows that over the last 10 or so years, there has been a gradual decrease in the amount of rain annually. And that is very troubling to us at the Water Department, and should be to each and every resident of this country. We hear talk about climate change, and we're thinking it's something out there, some hairy fairy tale about climate change and something that might or might not happen. Well, I want to say, based on information that I have seen from the Met Office in St. Kitts here, climate change is not something that might happen. It is something that has already happened in St. Kitts. We have been receiving less rain over the last 10 or so years, and that means we have less water. And going forward, if this trend continues, it means that we are definitely going to be relying more heavily on desalination. I think our time is just about expired, so we want to thank you, the callers this morning, who have joined us, and we hope that we answered your questions. Desalination is something that the government is currently working on as part of the solution going forward. Part of the solution, conservation. We cannot just desalinate and continue to waste water the way we do, because desalinated water is going to cost at least about 3 times more expensive than the water that we currently have from our natural rainfall. Once we start desalinating, it's lots of electrical energy to drive a desalination plant. The cost of production for water is going to triple. Tell me if you can still continue to waste water the way you do, knowing that the cost to the government and to you, the taxpayers, has increased 3-fold. Please let us wake up and start taking water in St. Kitts seriously. It is, if we don't, we're gonna be in some serious problems. So I want to thank you for joining us today on the Waterline, and we look forward to being with you again in another 2 weeks. That would be on the 28th, I think, Wednesday the 28th of September at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much. ZIZ.
So they're behind the 8 ball.
Well, it's going to be Jensen with the first delivery, and this is wide outside the line of the off-center King, and he's allowing it to go through to be taken by the keeper, but umpire signals are wide. So not a good start for the left arm pacer, and you're looking at a very tall man is Johnson, very tall and a nice smooth run up, and of course bowling left arm is always difficult for the batsman. Let's look at him as he runs away from us here at the Willie Rodriguez end. He bowls to King down the leg side, and King just looking to turn it